Dear colleagues, thank you for inviting us to participate in the Congress devoted to land and human rights. It is a pleasure for us as we would like to focus today on the farmer rights in Ukraine. We feel this is a pressing issue and it is important to talk about this, especially right now when the war is going on due to the Russian aggression in Ukraine. As Ukraine is on the verge of rebuilding and hopefully positive changes in the future on its way to accession to the European Union. So we feel that there are some important and crucial issues which are caused by some of the problems in Ukrainian agriculture sector. And this rebuilding, if substantiated and developed based on a scientific and thought through approach, would help to make the rural development, make the agricultural development set on the tracks that would take into consideration the rights of all the entities, all the individuals in Ukraine, especially in rural areas. What we would like to focus on today is the dichotomous agrarian structure of Ukrainian agriculture, because basically it consists of two major parts which contribute to agricultural output. It is the individual sector, which consists of individual farming households and private farms, and the corporate sector, which uh, consists of enterprises and agri-holdings. Both these sectors are contributing pretty much equally to the agriculture output. As you can see, the individual sector produces 46% and corporate sector 54% of the agriculture output. So basically, they're more or less have to have contributions. But at the same time, if we look at the employment structure, we see that the individual sector employs and consists of over 80% of people involved in agriculture production. This shows us the importance of the individual sector of agriculture in Ukraine. And also it is aimed at traditional consumer market and enables achievement of food sovereignty. It enables delivery of public goods which benefit the society, and the individual farming sector shows vividly the solidarity and mutual support, especially during the wartime. On the other hand, the corporate sector, as we said, it has an input of about 50% towards the agriculture output. It manages nearly half of the utilized agriculture area, but it has only a slight share of employment while targeting the global markets. Therefore, when we talk about the input of Ukraine towards the global food security, what we actually see quite often is the input of these corporations, agri-holdings, towards the food production. So the positive sides of the corporate sector, of course, the income in foreign currency to Ukraine, which especially pre-war period was beneficial, and during the war it is especially beneficial and supportive for Ukrainian development. We'll also see investments inflow within the corporate sector. We have the scale effect. So these are the positive aspects of functioning of the corporate sector in agriculture of Ukraine. Also, when we look at the more closely at the shares of these sectors in agriculture output of particular products. We see that corporate farms specialize primarily on commercial products aimed at exports, as we already noted in the previous slide, while the private farms focus more on milk, on fruits, vegetables, potatoes, honey, and so on. So we see this specialization of these sectors in the agriculture output, and we understand that both these sides are equally important to achievement of food security, both in of Ukraine and in terms of global food security. But when we look at the past basically 20 years of Ukrainian rural and agricultural development, we see some negative changes, and we understand that corporatization of agricultural production, which took place in exactly those 20 years, have led to some negative effects, even though having those positive ones that we looked upon in the previous slides. So basically, the key negative effects involve increased pressure on the environment, because in Ukraine, agri-holdings and those large agriculture corporations often produce their output without paying attention to the impact upon the soil, upon the water, and air, also the greenhouse gas emissions. We have this negative side, which is monocultivation, focusing on same type of products over and over, disregarding the crop rotation approaches, and balancing by heavy fertilization. This leads to a depletion of nutrients in soils and leads to a negative environmental impact. Then we have the labor productivity. While we see the growth in the corporate sector, in general, overall, due to this large competition from the side of corporate sector, we have the reduction in agriculture employment as a whole. We have the depreciation of human capital. We have migration from rural areas because there are no jobs. There we have large differences and disparities of income in rural areas and in urban areas, and these disparities are constantly growing because of the lack of opportunities in rural areas and in agriculture sector. Also, basically, there is forcing of rural residents to work in the informal sector because there are no official job opportunities. And basically, all these lead to maintaining the phenomenon of rural poverty. Also, even though we have the output growth, we have large sectoral disparities, like focusing on mainly cereals by the corporate sectors, on the rapeseed, on sunflower. Those are depleting the soils more compared to the other crops, and so we see that this approach is not efficient, is not environmentally friendly. Then we have the growth of exports and benefits from export earnings, but at the same time, even though at the moment 45% of income from exports of Ukraine, the gross income, the revenue generated by agriculture companies exporting goods, they are coming from agriculture. But at the same time, we see that it is not processed food, it is not ready for consumption food being exported by only raw materials, raw goods that are being processed elsewhere, thus bringing the value added in other countries outside of Ukraine, while again limiting and leading to lack of employment opportunities in Ukraine. Then we have the foreign exchange revenue diversion to other countries, which means that very often large corporations tax their income in other countries, in tax havens, which is more beneficial to them, but much less beneficial to Ukraine. And then we have excessive concentration of agricultural land, which leads to very strong competition between these individual sector and corporate sector in terms of land access. And what is seen is that corporate sector has more leverage to achieve control, to gain control over the agricultural land, both financially and administratively, and also through the judicial system. This leads to limiting the rights of individual farmers, private farms, in their access to this resource, and also to the resource, other types of resources like technological and financial. So to proceed to conclusions, beginning with the 2000s in Ukraine, we can state that a clear dichotomous structure of agriculture sector emerged in Ukraine, characterized by distinct corporate and individual farming subsectors, which lead to drastic disproportions and polarization in rural and agricultural development. The tensions between these subsectors have been since then intensifying as the competition has grown between them regarding the access to agricultural land, state subsidies, local and international markets, infrastructure, but even fundamental human rights, for example, through lack of respect for private property, attempts to influence the judicial independence. Conditions of war have further emphasized the differences between the two sectors, as corporations have shown their vulnerability due to the logistical implications which occurred due to the disruptions of these logistic chains, blocked export markets, lack of financial preferences, for example, state subsidization, unstable currency exchange rates. On the other side, individual farmers proved to be more adaptive by withstanding pressure and keeping their production activities while actively participating in voluntary support of the army and refugees. The military occupation of Ukrainian territory has significantly affected the agricultural production, food security, and land use. Since the beginning of the war, nearly 34% of Ukraine's territory has been and partially still is under Russian military occupation. These areas have suffered immensely due to systemic damage and pollution of land, buildings, assets, and infrastructure, which causes their withdrawal from economic activity. And these are accompanied by changes in the production structure of agriculture and disturbances in the achievement of food security, permanent or temporary migration processes, as well as pose a possibility of redistribution of agricultural land in the near future. So we can state that the social tensions between the landowners, land users, and rural residents are becoming more vivid. Therefore, we see that there is a need for changes in the agrarian sector of Ukraine based specifically on a human rights approach, which would benefit the individual farmers and strengthen their resilience and sustainability, especially during the rebuilding of Ukraine in the post-war period. Thus, in order to conduct a comprehensive and detailed analysis of the current state of rural areas in Ukraine, identify risks for their development in the post-war period, define the needs regarding land resources and food supply in the context of critical demographic trends, as well as substantiate a human rights-based integrated approach to rural development, food security, and land policy in post-war rebuilding of Ukraine. In September 2023, a new 3-year research project has started, which is entitled Substantiation and Measures for Implementation of a Human Rights-Based Integrated Approach to Rural Development, Food Security, and Land Policy in Post-War Rebuilding of Ukraine, which is financed under the long-term program of support of the Ukrainian research teams at the Polish Academy of Sciences, carried out in collaboration with the United States National Academy of Sciences, with the financial support of external partners. We have 3 key project partners in this 3-year project. We have the Polish Umbrella Institute, under which all the Ukrainian scientists are being employed. It is the Institute of Rural and Agricultural Development of the Polish Academy of Sciences. And there are 2 institutions from Ukraine, which are represented by scientists, Ukrainian scientists involved in this project, which are the State Institution, Institute for Economics and Forecasting of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine, and the Institute of Land Management of the National Academy of Agrarian Sciences. Collaboration of these institutions aims to achieve these key goals that have been basically already voiced by me on previous slides. And these will focus on developing the priorities and principles in the rural development, food security, and land relations and land use to ensure the realization of human rights. We will be focusing on substantiation of methodological approaches for national policies regarding agrarian and rural development with consideration of human rights. The project leader is Professor Krupin Borodina, who is affiliated in Ukraine with the state institution Institute for Economics and Forecasting of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine, but who is at the same time during the project duration employed at the Institute of Rural and Agricultural Development of the Polish Academy of Sciences, along with the 4 other performance researchers contributing to this project, including Viktor Yarovey, Vitaly Krupin, Shamil Ibatulin, and Oksana Sakai. We believe that this project is highly important to development of human-based rights in rural areas of Ukraine, and practical results of the study will be based on scenarios of the post-war development, substantiated with the use of methods of spatial modeling and forecasting, geo-informational system for supporting evidence-based decision-making. Develop recommendations aim to improve the institutional system of post-war rural and agrarian development based on a human rights-based integrated approach, will provide policymakers with a science-based tools for decision-making on policy intervention in Ukraine. Thank you for your attention, and in case you would like to contact us, feel free to write us at these email addresses. Thank you.